I am talking today with Carey Long, and Carey works for Davis School District in the Federal Programs Department. Is that correct?
Now it's the Office of Equal Opportunity, so we're separate from federal programs now.
And what's your position there, Carey?
I'm a district coordinator for the Office of Equal Opportunity.
I got to meet Carey last year when I had the privilege to be an advisor of a multicultural committee at our school. It's a district-wide program in Davis School District. And, as I met her and as I was involved with these students who are largely from marginalized populations, whether it be minority populations based on ethnicity or LGBTQ populations, this is something that I feel really passionate about. I also recognize that as a person who is white, I don't know what it means to be a person of color and experience trauma because of my race. And I wanted to ask you today if you could help me understand a little bit more about the intersection of race and trauma and how minority, marginalized, vulnerable populations might be impacted, I guess, more by trauma because of race.
I think this is such an interesting topic, mainly because of the last year and a half, 2 years of working with students from marginalized communities, particularly racially minoritized communities, and just kind of hearing their experiences and being able to, with the help of the Department of Justice and then our Student and Family Resources Department, all of these other departments that are helping to support this work, just to be able to do something as simply as define harassment on the basis of race versus bullying or versus discrimination, and seeing kind of I guess in my mind, it looks like splinters and how the splinter effect is different for each of those areas. And then you take into account an area of their protected class, whether it's their ability, whether it's their language, their native language, their race, their gender, or their gender identity and expression. Just seeing how small things can turn into big things for these kids when it comes to trauma and the types of trauma that they're experiencing. And so for me, when I think about racial trauma, I think about, kind of as you were mentioning before, when we first started talking about microaggressions and how those are, the term says itself, they're just tiny microscopic aggressions that not everybody is aware of, either that they're making or that you're on the receiving end of. And so in talking with a lot of students last year and then going into this year, that trauma is more apparent to me because I'm more aware of it. Personally speaking, I remember when I was younger, I grew up here in Davis County and went to all Davis County, Davis School District schools. And one of our, my siblings and I, one of our family friends, who we were really close with, loved them, always played with them. I just remember one of the comments that they made to us when we were younger about our skin, and like, can you wash that off? Or is that normal? And at the time, like, you're a kid, you're thinking like, of course not, that's my skin. Let me educate you. You brush it off. But then you get these compounding comments or actions or treatments, and I guess to kind of intersect it with a little bit with religion. My family wasn't raised LDS, and so we had a little bit of exclusion from some of the activities that our friends were doing because they were members of the church, and just kind of naturally that's where they gravitated towards, and then we didn't have that inclusive factor there. So but when I think about racial trauma, that's kind of where my mind goes for kids and what they experience today.
Thank you for that. So you're referring, in Utah, the predominant religion is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And from what it sounds like you're saying, not only did you feel rejected maybe because of the color of your skin, but also because you weren't part of this predominant religion, and it led to a cumulative effect where maybe there wasn't a big singular moment like we start to think about sometimes in trauma. But there was a compilation over time of small things that grew bigger. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, yeah. I feel like when you have that accumulation of these traumas, you also have this tendency to, and maybe this is just me, but to internalize that. And so you have this, if I just straighten my hair or if I stay out of the sun, you start to internalize this racism in a way to where it affects your perception of yourself or of your family, of your friends. Yeah.
So right as I said the word small, it made me stop myself that it's not small at all. Those what we're calling small things are actually what become the big things that contribute to trauma. And that's important to recognize because we do think, well, boy, someone just misunderstood something, or one kid was rude, or one family doesn't understand. But when you add it all together, it would feel to me very much like rejection, and it would make, I think I would feel like I was worth less.
Yeah, exactly.
When we think about education and the importance of addressing, systemic racism and cumulative trauma, what, I mean, this is a loaded question, but what's the solution in public education to start to redress this?
I think that is like the $1 million question there. Um, I think I think you'll remember that first session, the first two sessions that we had with our multicultural advisory committee students. We kind of probed them a little bit about what we could do to improve the state of things here in Davis School District. And I remember going home with myself because I looked through some of the survey questions that the students had answered, and one of the kids said in their response, "It's not our responsibility to fix this for you." And that just like really shook me as a representative of the district. Like, wow, you are correct. But the more I've had to kind of sit and think with that, the more I've been really intentional, especially in our investigations, in asking the complainant, the student who's usually on the receiving end of this, um, what better ways can the school support you and your family, or can your teachers or your counselors, how can we address this for you? And yesterday, in fact, I was meeting with a young man, and his biggest advice for us was to make sure that we're talking with the student and their families about why this is hurtful.
Mm.
And so his approach was very educational. He was on the receiving end of about 5 complaints in less than a semester, unfortunately, and he just had a hard time with that. So we asked him that yesterday, and he said, just someone talk with their parents, someone talk with them, let them know how this makes me feel, so we can try to do this. And I think that is the biggest key, especially with our younger kids. And I say younger, meaning like our junior high and below students, is giving them the tools and resources to understand why this isn't acceptable.
Yeah. Shifting gears just a little bit, do you think that vulnerable populations are victimized more often in terms of trauma inflicted by other people? And if so, why is that?
We see a lot of students self-reporting or their peers reporting that, hey, this is happening because this person belongs to this protected class, whether it's a racial slur or a slur based on someone's different ability, a slur based on someone's gender identity or expression or how they perceive that person to be. Yeah, I would say I'm not sure that there's necessarily an uptick, but I do think that a lot of the reports that we get are from kids trying to be harmful because of a way a person looks or because of a way a person is.
That makes sense to me. And I feel like I know the answer to this question. Hate crimes, which are trauma, are inflicted purposefully on protected classes. And so I would think for a variety of reasons that people of color are assaulted more, are and LGBTQ people are victimized more with violent crime. And then that comes to that whole systemic racism issue about socioeconomics, and is it because of race or is it because of money, and which came first? And that's overwhelming. Just as we wrap up for today, I'm really thankful to you for your insight. And I mean, I respect you so much in your office. Behind you, what's the first sign that says, "Oh, freedom isn't free"? What does that mean to you, Corey?
So these three pictures, there's one of a young Malcolm X, one of Rosa Parks, and then one of Martin Luther King Jr. And for me, that just reminds me of, for lack of a better term, the necessity of fighting.
Yeah.
Fighting against oppression or injustice. Understanding that many people have paved the road, and as you grow and as you learn more and as you're able to do better, that you have to pick up the mantle and continue the fight. So that's kind of what that means to me.
That's awesome. I really appreciate your time. Is there anything else that you'd like to add as we wrap up?
Just to kind of comment on what you had shared before, there's a wonderful resource in kind of the leaders in equity. One of the leaders in equity, his name is Paul Gorski. He is fantastic and kind of answers that question that you kind of brought forward at the beginning of this is, I don't understand. I don't understand this because I don't belong to this community, but I want to help. And Paul Gorski has done wonderful work with understanding the challenges that people of color face, the challenges that students who are experiencing homelessness or a low economic status situation. His work just spans, it's really wonderful work, and it kind of answers that question of, I'm not part of that community, but what can I do to help and pick up my own mantle and fight the good fight.
All right. Well, we're having a Future Fest conference here today at our school, and I'm going to be part of the first session. So I've got to run, and I know you have a busy day, but thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. I hope to see you soon.